Thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Today, we are discussing 7 actual mysteries in Tears of the Kingdom. There are too many mysteries to count in the newest addition to the Legend of Zelda series. It's insane how many locations, armor sets, side quests, and shrines there are, such as the Fierce Deity set being canon, I guess. 2, well, the fact that there's still not much information about the Zonai. And in case you were wondering, I am still only running 4 hearts. Yep, no, I haven't done nearly any of the shrines. Yes, I did complete the main side quest. Yes, I did trade all my hearts for the maxed out stamina. Yes, I do get 1 shot. So anyway, we are discussing mysteries in Tears of the Kingdom, and boy howdy was it hard to choose which ones. I mean seriously, like, why is this building on Dragonhead so weird? And why do we still know nothing about the Zonai? I cry every time. But first, before we get into our 7 mysteries, make sure to subscribe to the channel to help us hit 100K by the end of 2023. And a word from our sponsor.
Fellow adventurers, boys, we all need to protect our browsing history. Yep, even in Hyrule, online security is crucial, which is why our sponsor, Surfshark VPN, gave us this exclusive offer. It's like a powerful potion that keeps your online identity safe by encrypting all the data sent between your devices and the internet. No more worrying about malicious attacks from Ganon's forces. Need access to hidden secrets in other regions of the world? Surfshark swaps your virtual location, so you can unblock content libraries and streaming services from other countries. With Surfshark, your online adventures remain hidden from the world, just like Link and Zelda's relationship. Now, fellow heroes, you know how much we value our privacy. With Surfshark VPN, you can stealthily change your virtual location to remain undetected and free from prying eyes of the Sheikah. Use our exclusive code to get an extra 3 months free. And fear not, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to embark on this adventure. Thank you, Surfshark. Now back to these 7 actual mysteries.
The reward for the Labyrinths. The massive Zonai Labyrinths are among the most puzzling things in the game. According to page 342 of Creating a Champion, quote, "These giant mazes were built long ago. They appeared to have some similarities to the Zonai ruins in Faron, but whether or not there is a connection between them is unknown. Regardless, both were constructed in areas that are inaccessible to the average person. Now, there are these mysterious voices that speak to Link, ruler of dragons, ruler of owls, and the ruler of boars, respectively. These ruins are primarily animal-themed, but with the history of the Triforce and an ancient perspective in mind, these designs are symbolic, using dragons' courage, owls' wisdom, and boars' power. And yes, their name is a pun. Zonai is a take on zonao, a word meaning mystery in Japanese. The surface maze is nearly the same as Breath of the Wild. Instead, this time, it has a trail of nuts. Or you can just climb to the top and hop in the entrance leading to the shrine. There's no way to cheese the sky though. Vast stretching walls climb farther into the sky than what would be reasonable to climb between each terminal. While gliding around, I couldn't help but wonder, what could create these massive areas of low gravity? There's never a particular source revealed. It seems to be some kind of invisible sphere. When entering, there's a blue animation. When exiting, there's a yellow animation across the screen, which kind of reminds me of the Dragon Tears. There's no enemies either, and it's like the ultimate gaming vibe. At the end of the maze, no matter which terminal you're at, the wind blasts Link up to the top where he can see all of Hyrule. There's also this terminal that rises out the sand at the top, which kind of reminds me of the power generators from Skyward Sword. All of the mazes are at the edges of the map, so it really does make a nice view. Link floats over to the terminal and then activates it. Each of the respective, voices asks Link to prove his courage by diving into the depths. Then, the best dive in the whole game. I mean, seriously, We have all wondered at some point while playing this game what it would be like to dive from the top of the sky down to the depths, which is just so awesome. So after absolutely dumpstering the flux construct downstairs, the final terminal awaits. The North American localization reads,
"You who have traversed this labyrinth of the depths, this trial was a test of your talents. In overcoming it, you have shown yourself to be strong of body, skill, and mind. In my name as the ruler of the dragons, I commend your achievement and offer a fitting reward. Armor, wreathed in otherworldly evil, hidden away since days of old. Take it now."
Then a platform lifts up, revealing a chest. This armor is the Phantom Ganon armor set from Ocarina of Time. And this is what stumps me. Why is this armor here? Why is it in these mazes? In the last game, the Barbarian armor was in these mazes. Everyone was very sure this armor was Zonai. But now that Tears of the Kingdom is out, I'm not so sure. This area seems like some kind of proving grounds for a young Zonai, but if it was a recorded message, then it wouldn't make sense that it would say this to just any young Zonai person. The other thought I had was maybe perhaps the dragons are telepathically communicating, but I don't know. That doesn't seem likely. Or there's multiple recorded messages based on the imprint received at the terminal, which seems to be like the most logical option. There is no way this place was just built for Link, but the fact that this armor was housed here for Link by presumably a singular Zonai group or dragon sends my brain into absolute ADHD hell. There are so many interpretations that could be made from this armor being within the mazes in the depths, and how that falls in the timeline. For me, I think that this proving grounds was not only made for Link, but for Ganondorf too. I've previously discussed Ganondorf in excess in the past, and have come to the conclusion that Ganondorf must go through the same rigorous spiritual training as Link does. If Ganondorf wants to use the Triforce, he would have to first achieve balance in his heart. The Triforce does not care if you're good or evil, it cares if you're balanced. Perhaps this was left here for him and not Link. Give it some thought. Master Kohga powers. The first time meeting Master Kohga, he instantly recognizes the Sheikah Slate. He actually rubs his eyes to make sure he is seeing it correctly. He has been looking for Link and even sent his scouts out on a search for him. This is the strong, the burly, the one, the only Master Kohga. Now, if you actually pay attention in Master Kohga's boss battles, his powers are fascinating. He can make these shields and summon these large battle balls out of thin air. Most of the Yiga powers are red, such as when they teleport in and out, but these are orange and blue. And the shield Kohga has is blue and has these blue squares. These squares are eerily reminiscent of magic seen in Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess. The colors vary, but the magic appears to be the same. Now, here's the kicker. I need to bust out my serious moves, a secret technique taught by my father's mother's father. It will destroy you. He summons another large metal ball, which he thinks might be too big. And then he says, only the leader of the Yiga clan can use this secret technique. Now, in Tears of the Kingdom, when picking up auto build in the central mine, Link meets Kohga again. This time, he can summon these giant walls and summon these huge vehicles as well. The walls also look like the summons from the dungeons. Look, I know that they're actually called Sage's Vows, but summons just sounds cooler, man. I don't really know what the connection is there. He is still a weak little squishy, but this guy is running a huge Yiga operation. Kohga has been gathering crystallized charges, notebooks, and Hebra talk about Kohga having touched this blue stone and resurrecting. They may have been talking about resurrecting the construct, which is honestly what I think is being referred to in the notebook. However, that still doesn't really answer how he can summon things out of thin air, and create shields. I think that Master Kohga may have come into contact with something mysterious that we probably have not seen yet. If we have seen it, it might be something like one of those guidance stones in Breath of the Wild. Perhaps he's somehow gained access to the Magnesis Shrine. But that also still doesn't explain how he can make objects teleport, or himself for that matter. The way the last monologue goes in Hebra Mine kinda loosely reminds me of the Phantom Ganon cutscene in Hyrule Castle. I'm not exactly sure how he would get powers like these. The famous Master Kohga's powers are absolutely shrouded in mystery. How are locations named in the Purah pad? There are many locations that the Sheikah do not or have not gone to. For instance, the entire depths. Presumably, researchers are just now becoming familiar with the depths. There are Yiga members in the depths, but that does call into question a Hyrule-wide Sheikah server that the Yiga clan can make entries into, and that just doesn't seem to make sense to me. So, is the Purah pad analyzing structures in real time, or does it have some kind of built-in AI tool? Okay, for instance, the Bargainers are named Majin Zhao, meaning demon statue. This is what got me thinking about how things are named on the map. Like, how does that work? I was thinking this because maybe the Purah pad has learned somewhere that this face means demon. If this is AI, it would have needed to be taught to recognize the statue as a demon, right? Are you tracking with me? So that means that this wireless meta switch connected to the Sheikah Wi-Fi and online directory constantly. But then this causes me to wonder how the little cherry got compendium entries. How does the Sheikah tech identify anything? I genuinely do not know what it could be other than AI within the Sheikah slate or the Purah pad. And I mean, we know that AI exists in Hyrule. This is because, well, there are robots who have personalities like Scrapper as far back as Skyward Sword. No one told Scrapper to be mean to Link or jealous of him. He just is. No one would have programmed him to be like this either. There's also the pirates who defected. They did that of their own will. No one tells the Guardians in real time what to do. They are given a code and they just roll with it. It wouldn't surprise me that Link's iPad has a compact AI tool housed within it. I just wonder who taught it to perceive things the way it does. The obvious answer is Robbie and Purah, but this technology does go much further back than just them. I just wonder how accurate the Sheikah technology is. The history of the Rito. The ancient Stormark song adds fuel to the burning questions around this region.
Long, long ago, and longer than that, a god fell from the heavens, and the winds of Hebra ceased. With the winds ceased, the heavens stagnated, and with the heavens stagnated, the land fell into ruin. We were fighting against a natural disaster. The gods seemed to observe the sky hopelessly, and everyone rallied together to help them. Mysterious ships that float in the sky. We will build it, launch it, and float it into the sky. The god was returned to the sky, and in thanks they gifted us this great ship. The winds were restored, and both heaven and earth were appeased.
This song confirms that the Rito have always been a part of Hyrule's history. Think about it. We were not introduced to the Rito until the Wind Waker. Most of us had believed that the Rito must have descended from the Zora because, well, Medli's ancestor was a Zora. Laurelian historian brought up an interesting point about Medli. Different races marry each other all the time. I mean, Hudson is Hylian and Rodson is Gerudo. Link was proposed to by Ruto in Ocarina of Time, and then it's heavily insinuated that Link and Mipha may have already been engaged. She might not have proposed, but how else would that armor fit just perfectly? The point is that interracial couples exist in Hyrule. Basing the entire evolution of a race off of one instance is not enough evidence, in my opinion. So then there's the Stormark. This song is a testament to the Rito's existence, dating back to the era of antiquity.
A line of mysterious little ships soaring will make them, float them, and send them into the sky.
For the Rito to actually launch ships all the way to the sky, there couldn't have been a sky barrier. If there wasn't a sky barrier, then it must have launched before it was formed. Or else, how would the ships already be in the sky? So the mystery becomes, where were the Rito all these years? Is it merely because they were isolated from Hyrule, that they never really interacted with the Hylians? Or did the Rito migrate from other lands? With the disappearance of Cass, it definitely raises some questions about the lands outside of Hyrule. As Hyrule Gamer, Saria, and many other creators have pointed out, this may be where a DLC comes into play. If you're interested in learning more about the Storm Arc, watch my most recent video about the Forgotten Temple. I'm not entirely sure what to make of the history of the Rito, but one thing is for certain, we have no idea who the Rito actually are. The architecture of the Great Plateau. The Great Plateau Tower transmits a signal to the central control unit in Hyrule Castle, and then it transmits a signal to all the remaining Sheikah towers and shrines. All this information is in creating a champion, though I believe that Nintendo Black Crisis also did a video about it, and it's linked in the description below. The architecture of the Great Plateau is Hylian built, aside from the 1 or 2 Zonai pillars and the older cobbled together ruins in the Forest of Time. Some believed this place was once a castle, very closely resembling the layout of the long-lost castle town from Ocarina of Time. Heck, there was even water around the perimeter of the Great Plateau according to the map in the Forgotten Temple. But let's look at and compare the finer details. For instance, in Memory 6, the Gerudo Assault, Ganondorf is looking from here at the Great Plateau. He doesn't just look at the Great Plateau. The camera lingers on it. It even zooms in. First off, the outer walls are pristine white stone. There's a torii gate between the rock formations. The climate is now cold. The climate was warm, and all the trees that were in the memory are actually not there. What is odd is that no matter which memory on the Great Plateau, almost all of the land and the architecture appears unchanged. But Hylian architecture completely replaces the Zonai architecture. Why would this be? The Hylian architecture does not appear in any of these cutscenes, so it's safe to assume that this style of architecture did not exist in this era. I thought maybe this is a Tibio's Hollow situation, and there's Zonai architecture revealed underneath, somewhere. I can report after thoroughly investigating the entire perimeter of this place over and over and over again. It is not hiding anywhere within the Hylian architecture. Why would the Hylians completely destroy and replace pieces of architecture? The only parts of the outer walls of the Great Plateau I could find is in the Dig Dog Suspension Bridge area. This seems correct, but why are they all piled over here? Why lift parts out of the Great Plateau to the sky? The outer walls would serve no purpose. Though, something to consider. This was something that was done in the real-world ancient eras, replacing architecture that is. The Romans used to completely demolish and rebuild cities they conquered. The Zonai people had perished according to Ganondorf. There is a difference between these two images. It's the shrines. There are shrines where the old Sheikah shrines once stood. I guess it would be the other way around. There were Sheikah shrines where the Zonai shrines once stood. Yeah. And now they are chasms. These could have been turned into free-floating stones, but that really wouldn't explain anything. I really cannot wrap my head around this location, and that's not even, I have a headache even just like reading the script, like I'm thinking, and it just hurts. And that's not even brushing the surface about how weird this place gets. The Mayoi Drop. Walking through Hyrule, you may have come across 1 or 2 caves. If not, you surely have walked past one and seen one of these tiny blue rabbit-like creatures. They are called bloopies, or rumi in Japanese. You can't get too close to them, and if you try to, they'll run away toward the cave. Shooting them with an arrow won't kill them, but they will drop rupees while running. No matter which cave you have discovered, you are able to find a hidden path which will lead you to a mysterious creature called the bubble frog, or Mayoi in Japanese. These look more frog-like, 4 faces which are the same faces that the bloopies have. They jump around the walls and do not seem to have a deeper purpose at first. If Link approaches them, they will start shooting these big bubbles at him, hitting him with an arrow or 2 that seems to kill them. They flip on their backs and start floating upward. Poof, they're gone. What's left is one small bloopy that disappears like 2 seconds after, and a strange-looking rupee-shaped blue crystal. These are called bubble gems, or Mayoi drops in Japanese. The item description says, a strange crystal left by defeated bubble frogs in the caves. Its eerie blue glow may entice you to collect even more. There is a person in Hyrule who can tell you a bit more about these gems, Colton, the brother of Kilton, who we've met in Breath of the Wild. He has a huge interest in collecting these gems. He wants to become a Satori, and he thinks that those bubble gems can help him become one. If this is your first Zelda game, this may sound confusing. Satori, or the Lord of the Mountain, is a creature also from Breath of the Wild that was found at a special night on Mount Satori. According to the Breath of the Wild NOA Compendium, this noble creature watches over all the animals that make their homes in the forest. Legend says that this holy creature is a reincarnation of a sage that died on the lands it now protects. It has an acute awareness of its surroundings, so it seldom appears before people. It's sometimes known by its other name, Satori. In Tears of the Kingdom, you're still able to see him, but with much less information than Breath of the Wild. Anywho, so Kilton clearly fits the item description. But what are the crystals and who are those creatures, as they have similar appearance as the bloopy or the Satori himself? There must be a connection. Kenora, an NPC found close to some cherry blossom trees in Hyrule Field, tells you to place a fruit on the altar beneath, because Satori seems to like them. If you do so, Satori will appear and mark the closest cave locations to you. So Satori wants you to reach the caves and destroy the frogs. But why? Maybe the Japanese name can give some hints. Mayoi means hesitation, bewilderment, doubt, and indecision. Let's compare this to Satori, which means comprehension and understanding. So follow me on this one. First off, the bubble gem is described as pale blue, and there is a multitude of other things that are as well, that may or may not be loosely connected. For instance, the sealing spike used on the imprisoned in Skyward Sword is described in Hyrule Historia as pale blue. The other thing linking all this type of magic together is real-world Buddhism. The Buddhist term for Mayoi means inability to reach enlightenment, and the Buddhist term for Satori is enlightenment. Well, then there's the Ocarina of Time, which also uses this term to describe its color, pale blue. This is also what's used to describe the luminous stones, pose, and the silent shrooms. I have changed the way I view rupees to adopt a different headcanon. They are like containers for transfers of magical energy. This is just a flavor of magic, the bubble flavor. So, what do these all have to do with each other? There is also this design that appears within the bubble gem called the sinuous pattern, as described in Creating a Champion. While the patterns on the Sheikah technology and the magic armor are not the same, they are awfully similar. After watching how Colton changed, it is fair to assume that a lot of these beings may have been real people. And what's more is that the Lost Woods are not known as Lost Woods. They're known as the Mayoi Woods. This is a place that Ganondorf cannot go. The energy cells also turn the same blue when it is fully upgraded. This could imply that the Sheikah technology is a supercharged form of Zonai technology. I would really love to hear your thoughts on this one, because I've been going around just in straight circles with myself for like 3.5 weeks. Please help me. just for you guys, an 8th hidden mystery. Take it away, 𝙑𝙞𝙙𝙙.
Hi, I'm 𝙑𝙞𝙙𝙙𝙀. If you still don't know who I am, then that's okay. But here's one thing about me. I'm obsessed with the Leviathans from Breath of the Wild. 3 humongous whale-like skeletons, which can be found in Eldin, Gerudo, and 𝙑𝙗. After I finished the Great Sky Island, I knew what was going to be my first destination. 𝙑𝙗 Mountain, here I come! My precious, unidentified 𝙑𝙗 skeleton was still there, but something was different. The ice is missing. I examined the cave completely to find nothing. There's no indication as to why the ice melted. Everything outside the cave is still the same. As there was nothing to find here yet, I headed to the other Leviathan. I went straight to Eldin because a sandstorm in Gerudo made it impossible to get to the one there yet. So there, we can find 𝙑𝙞𝙙. Or, as I like to call myself now, 𝙑𝙑𝙞𝙀. She tells you about her interest in the skeletons and that she wants to see them in their full glory. So here the quest starts and we can now discover some secrets about the skeletons. The first one is just as weird as the following ones and gives us no more conclusion that we already had. So in Eldin we have to find the skeletons' eyes and put them back into their sockets. So the only information we get from completing this is his eyes fossilized too. Wow. I hoped she had some more information, but okay. The next destination is my precious Leviathan again. And oh, look at this. She calls this one precious too. Here we have to find a fin and backbone and put them where they belong. Then talk to 𝙑𝙞𝙙 again. She will just thank you for the possibility of seeing it. No information about it. Nothing. Okay, the last one will be the one in Gerudo. Let's quickly clear the sandstorm. Okay, that's better. Let's see what 𝙑𝙞𝙙 tells us about the windfish, the Gerudo skeleton. Wait, where is it? Shouldn't it be here? But... oh, a cave! It seems like since Breath of the Wild it's sunk under the sand. Let's see what 𝙑𝙞𝙙 has to say, and oh my god! What is that? Is that a baby? 𝙑𝙞𝙙, what do you have to say about this? So she seems to be surprised about it, but not as much as I am now. Our task now is to collect the parts of the baby and put them back together. But sadly, the only info we get out of this is... it is a baby. But why though? The long-lived theory about the Leviathans was that this one in particular is the windfish from Link's Awakening, due to its small, tiny wings on his back. And he actually looks like a whale. But this makes me think, is this really his baby? Is this a way of joking about the actual windfish and his covalent equivalent that comes out of an egg? Or is there actually a child of the windfish? The quest is done and there's sadly no more information about them. And then I thought more about the sinking. Is there more underneath? I jumped into the next chasm to see if there was anything down there. To my surprise, there was! The depths are filled with giant bones, similar to the ones we find all over Hyrule. But those were never explained either. So I went to the place where the Leviathans would be, but in the depths, to see what I would find. Again, to my surprise, 3 gigantic skeletons, bigger than anything we've seen before. These look more like dragons than whales, but they don't match the dragons we see flying around Hyrule either. They have a different head shape and are far more bigger than the other ones, but they do have a serpent-like body. There's absolutely no explanation about them whatsoever. The only lore implication we get is, again, without explanation, is that we can find the set of the wild here. I don't get it. Who were they? What was their purpose? Why do they hold the set of the wild when in Breath of the Wild it was found in the Forgotten Temple? I was so excited when I saw 𝙑𝙞𝙙. I hoped she could be the one who I called in my prayers to give me conclusions. But now, I am left with more questions than before and no hope left that there will be an answer one day. Sadly.
How does the Master Sword break? Just how? At the beginning of the Skyward Sword, we learned about the Goddess White Sword and how it was strengthened with the 3 sacred flames and became the Master Sword. Through thousands and thousands of years, the sword has fought alongside the hero and protected Hyrule. It sealed multiple evil beings. Thousands of monsters were killed. The sword is able to heal itself from battles fought simply by resting. Usually it's in the Lost Woods and it's waiting for the next hero to come. It is the blade of evil's bane, but yet it got destroyed. And it wasn't even a tough or long fight. It happened in seconds. Ganondorf is still vulnerable to the sword, as a broken off edge cuts through his cheek. So why can the gloom simply make the Master Sword explode? I mean, think about it. The Master Sword has received the blessings from the sages of Earth and Wind in the Wind Waker. In A Link Between Worlds, it is upgraded with Master Ore. In Twilight Princess, the sword is imbued with the power of souls in the Twilight Realm. In Breath of the Wild, there was a whole DLC quest around upgrading the Master Sword, but it's still broken. In fact, the first memory is Link collecting the Master Sword from the Deku Tree after the events of Breath of the Wild. How could this be? Well, there's a part of a little cutscene from Skyward Sword that you may not have remembered, possibly even written off, or just did not consider it that important. The Master Sword used to be known as the True Master Sword. After blessing the sword in the 3 sacred flames, Hylia blesses the sword, causing it to become the True Master Sword. In a conversation I was having with Laurelian, I asked him why he thought the Master Sword broke. He said, in general, game mechanics, as to why I broke off against the attack from Ganondorf at the beginning of the game, Link's life was nearly snuffed out in a moment. The influence of miasma corrupting him. The sword and the hero are bound together. HMK also recently uploaded a theory, linked in the description, and it also brings up some of these ideas. And so I asked him, you think that's why the miasma can affect the Master Sword? Is because it affects Link? He said yes. The sacred blade is forever bound to the soul of the hero. A similar occurrence was happening during the Great Calamity 100 years ago, when Link had been fighting off Mal's corrupted guardians, and was on the brink of death. The sword was beginning to show signs of wear and tear. It was smeared with malice, and the steel was nicked. This was just worse than that, and more sudden, and more powerful. Ganondorf's miasma was a more direct attack, whereas malice was like a slow leap into the world after thousands of years of buildup. At the end of the battle with Demise after the curse is inflicted, Demise bursts into a poof of smoke. Do you know where the smoke goes? Into the Master Sword. What if the true Master Sword was hidden somewhere so Demise never escapes again, and all the other swords we see are just replicas, or simply new ones? Think about it. The first true Master Sword is never to be seen again. In Skyward Sword, we receive the White Goddess Sword in the sky. And what is the reward for bringing her the 3 claws from the dragons? The White Sword of the Sky. So what each of the links used was not the true Master Sword. The sword used in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom was never blessed by the flames, or by weakened ones, and more importantly, it was never blessed by Hylia. So it never became the true Master Sword. So what about Vi, you ask? Simple answer, she's an AI coded to the sword. So she could have been coded to other swords too. As she is an AI, she is learning and has learned to love Link. Or she is connected to him, and you could use the same AI from different devices, so why not here? But this is just guessing and theorizing, and the true Master Sword answer is yet to be explained. Until then, the real reason for the broken Master Sword remains a mystery. These mysteries are meant to encourage you guys to theorize in the comments. I have a lot of ideas surrounding each of these ideas, but I am genuinely curious what your conclusions are. And don't be shy, leave your ideas and thoughts in the comments below. And remember to subscribe if you enjoyed the content to help us reach our goal of hitting 100k subscribers in 2023. And remember to use our exclusive code to sign up with Surfshark VPN in the description. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.